What is up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel. So, I got a call today from one of my local guys that frequents, and I say today, I got a call from him a couple days ago, and he frequents flea markets and things like that, and he said, I got a Super Nintendo for you. I said, not interested. And he said, no, this one works. And I said, well, you know, no offense, kid, but you burned me a couple of times, and I'm probably not interested. He said, I'll send you pictures and videos. So he did. So I said, sure, go ahead and send me pictures and videos, and he sent it to me. And so I got the pictures and videos, and I looked at it, and the price he was offering, it wasn't quite right. It really wasn't. It was not where it really needed to be. And then he said, and I'll sweeten the pot for you a little bit. I'll throw in a Wii and a bunch of controllers and some games. And I said, for the price he was offering, for I think it was $70. That's a pretty fair deal. All right, I'll bite. I'll play. So I went and picked it up today, and he did show me in the video, and I thought, oh no. But he also showed me video of it working. So I went to go pick it up, and I got it home, and the first thing I did with this, just looking at the outside of it, and I don't know how well it's going to come out on camera, but this thing is really dirty, very, very, very grungy and dirty looking. I kind of looked inside. I didn't see any bugs, but in the interest of fairness to my house, I opened it up outside, and what I found was a little bit heartbreaking. Let's roll the intro. So, taking a look at just the outside of this, here's what I can tell you. Just kind of off the surface. The top of this shell is not in as bad a shape as it probably looks like to you that it is. I think with just some good scrubbing, with some soap and water, you can already tell a big difference just in that area right there. I think a lot of this is just surface dirt. Now, that is actually to our benefit, right? Because what causes these consoles to yellow, and you can kind of see it here on this side, are the free bromides rising to the top. So actually the dirt kind of inhibits that growth a little bit, which means the top of this is probably going to come out and look really great once it's all clean. That sound, though, scared me. Now, I did go ahead and open this up, so like I said, I know exactly what is inside of it, but you guys don't, so I thought I'd show you. When I opened it up, though, I was a little bit heartbroken just because of what I found, but it's all going to be okay. I got a plan, and we're gonna make this thing. We're gonna make it great again. So, you guys ready? Have you spotted it yet? So, both of these two whole legs were broken off. This whole leg was broken off of somewhere, I don't know. The entire front of the case here. Let me pull the eject bar out and set him aside. The entire front of this case is completely shattered off inside of here. It took a pretty good sized jolt. Now, it's not the end of the world for us. It's really not. It's nothing that's going to stop us from being able to rebuild this console, even though it is, you guys know I've made clear my feelings about these old vintage consoles and all that stuff, and you know how, I don't know, you can call me a little sensitive about them. But So it kind of breaks my heart a little bit, to see it in this shape, to see it in this stage. But I think, first off, I've got several non-working Super Nintendos, so I've got plenty of cases floating around. The top of it, even the inside, it looks like it's in great shape. It's clean for the most part. I mean, we're going to have to wash it, obviously, but I mean, there weren't any bugs. There weren't any damage. There's no broken parts. The eject button, the power button, the springs, they all operate as they're supposed to. So I think really all we're looking at here, honestly, is replacing the bottom of this shell, the bottom housing, and going from there. Now, this is not a one-chip model. This is the SHVC sound model, the super high, whatever it is. This was the first generation of the NES that came out. Now, I can tell you already, looking at this board, we do have what I would call some light board rot. We've got some capacitors that have leaked. We're going to get to those. Tell you what, let me clip over to high speed real quick. I'm going to pull the vacuum out that I know you're not supposed to do. We're going to pull it out anyway and suck up as much of this dust as we can in phases. All right? Okay, so kind of phase one is kind of sort of for more or less done, right? And really, all I really wanted to do is just remove the surface dust that was on this thing. I really wasn't too worried about getting it spotless, and here's why. I'm going to clean the individual components. The metals look to be in pretty good shape. Even the top of this guy looks to be in pretty good shape. So there's no point in going crazy yet, because we're going to remove this. Now, why vacuum this up? Well, I could take it outside, and I could go over to the garage, and I could break out the air compressor, and I could blow it all out, and then somebody would find a complaint about blowing it out with an air compressor, and it's just a never-ending saga. Realistically, vacuuming a board is probably not, and I say probably not, is really not a good idea. It's not a best practice. However, I do it frequently on my channel, which is not saying you should, but I'm saying I do. I don't want this dust, as much of it as I can avoid, floating around my house. Okay? I don't want to breathe it in. I don't know where it came from. I don't know what's in it. It could be really bad. The point is, I don't actually know, and you won't either, right? And so with that, to me, it is safer for my body, for my lungs, for the health of my family, and all the rest of that, to just go ahead, hit it with a vacuum, pull up all the dust, and then as you break this thing apart, continue to do it. Now, I don't recommend using a full-blown vacuum cleaner. As you guys see, that I use my little dust buster. Right, that's the part that's the tool I use, and I usually have my brush on it, pretty much all the time. Remove him. Okay, he looks okay. I've got a little bit more dust. I'm going to pull out, vacuum this up. But as I've said before, I don't recommend that you guys do it. I don't say you shouldn't. I just be cautious that you can actually damage stuff. Don't use a household plug into the wall without any sort of a plastic bristle. Plastic bristles are going to be ideal, though they can hold capacitance in them. The biggest reason that I can find electrically from a building or modding perspective as to why you should not vacuum the board is knocking off components, right? You run the risk of being rough and breaking components. You just do, and as terrible as that sounds, you just do. So pretty much, yeah, the front of this board, if you guys can look here and see, first off, both of these came off of here, and our two round pins came off of here, off of these front edges right here, right? That's where they came from. I don't know which one came from which side, but this is, yeah, that one came from that side for sure. So I glue those guys back down. I don't see any damage to the cartridge connector, or not the cartridge, the you know what I mean, gamepad connector. I don't see any damage up here to this, to the front. It may have been dropped just enough to snap it off. Okay, lifting this guy up, we do see evidence of original NES flux. That's what you're seeing here. This is all OEM. They just didn't clean it real well from the factory. That's fine. We got some other dust in here and debris. I'm just going to clean this up. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and just clean it up real quick. I'm here. I'll hit it with a vacuum real quick, like. So I guess this we're to the point where we kind of beg the question. We're throwing away the bottom of this board, and I say we're throwing it away. I'm 99%. I'm going to throw it away. I may stick it over on the shelf for a few months. And not that I mean, I can't use it again because we've got no attachment points up front, which means it's going to be flopping loose. So, I mean, I don't see me using this again. But, so why take the time to clean it? Well, I mean, you know, why not, right? So I'm just going to stick him on the shelf for now. All right, and let's get into our actual console. Let's see what we're looking at here. So we've got the original 7805C here, which we will replace with a 78S05. Again, I'm 99% positive, and I say that. The kid sent me a video yesterday of the thing working, so I'm 99% positive the thing works. You know, you never can be 100%, and I guess I could go ahead and plug it up on my own, but I see some things on the board that kind of scare me a little bit. And while I'm glad that he sent me a video of it working, the things on the board that scare me enough to want me to go ahead and handle now, or at least take a look at. And some of the stuff that I see, the whole front half of the board looks great, but right over in this area, I see a little bit of board rot. Looks like an electrolytic capacitor busted or is leaked on us, which, again, this is all par for the course. There's nothing new here on that, but if we can go ahead and neutralize it or clean it up, or at least remove those capacitors, that would be great for us. So let's take our shielding away. Actually came pretty clean. Yep, these two right here. Almost every single time. Okay, let me pull this guy up here and kind of show you what I'm talking about when I say board rot. You see this black right here in this area? Okay, all right in here. One of these capacitors, or both of them, and give me a second, I'll tell you exactly which one, has vented. Or something has leaked onto it, and I'm not sure which just yet. Now, this is all ground plane, okay? This is all ground plane down in here, so no big deal if it has damaged that, but that scares me enough to make me want to go ahead and not just leave it sitting in the case or whatever else, to go ahead and clean this right here up. I do want to go ahead and hit this 3325A. Yeah. I've got almost all of these, so it shouldn't be a big deal. But I do want to find out which one exactly is leaking. I tell you what I want to do. It would be real great if we could, because I don't get to show this off much. What would be really cool is if I could put this under a microscope for you guys and show you what it looks like. Yeah, so there you go. So that right there is 100% board rot, okay? and clean that picture up for you a little bit, right? So that is leakage, right? That's what you're seeing all in here. This is our electrolytic fluid has leaked out of these capacitors somewhere, one of them. Which one I don't know yet, but one of them has leaked, or both of them potentially. And so if we kind of zoom in a little bit and tilt this up so I can get a little bit slightly better view. Or maybe something was, I don't know yet. I haven't formed enough of an idea yet about what exactly is going on, other than a lot of dust. My concern is that works its way onto the board in a worse way than it already is and damages the board. We power it up anymore. I think it's this one. I think it's this second capacitor over here is the one that is leaked. I think it's this one. Again, I'm not 100% yet on that. Not 100% yet, but I'm fixing to be. Yeah. This is the one. You can see the staining in the solder there, and the staining around the plastic. And this one does not have that same staining, like other than the solder just being dirty, right? Let me see if I can clean some of that away. So other than the piece being dirty, the capacitor being dirty, let's see if I can clean this away some. Yeah. So right here, this is what you're looking for. And let me flip this up here so you guys can see it nice and pretty. Okay. So what you're looking at, and this is hard because I got to hold the board, is right here along this. You see the little bit of yellowing on the edge of this, on the edge of the solder joint right there. This is our capacitor that's leaked. This first one right here. This is the guy that's leaked. Okay. This first one's leaked. Now, does it really matter? Not so much. Does it matter which one's leaked? Not so much. We know one of them has leaked, and that's really all we need to know. So, let me show you the proper way to remove these. Okay? Let me show you the proper way, because there's lots of people that'll tell you lots of things, and yes, you can hot air these guys off, and you can do 1,000 different things. Let me show you my way. I learned about this on YouTube, so it has to be right. Right? So what you want to do, get you a small pair of mostly pointy pliers. Grab this guy by the side at the plastic portion and give him, or right up here even on the metal, that's fine too, it makes no difference, and just start twisting him just gently back and forth. Eventually those solder tabs will break. Now, I'm not pulling, I'm not going nuts, I'm just a little quarter of a turn at a time, back and forth. Voila, comes right off. Yep, and looky there. Let me get the microscope back over here. Looky there. It's perfect. You can actually see the liquid that's left on the board. It's perfect. Let me get the microscope. Turn back on it back over here. Should have never turned him off. It's perfect. How often do you actually get to see exactly on a board let me move my hat out of the way for you guys, that a capacitor is leaking? you usually get to see the effects, but if you look at this underneath here, you see how it's still wet? Look at that. See how it's still wet? That is a vented capacitor. And if I put this guy down here, maybe if I bring him up here a little bit. Nah. You'll never see that. Okay, but that guy right there has 100% leaked out on our board. You can see the leak stains all around here. You can see it. Clear as a bell. We know he's vented. Look at that. That's cool. Okay, so I don't know if that's coming. Let me dial my microscope in for you guys. I don't know if that's coming through clear enough for you or not. Yeah, you can see the liquid in there built up. See that? That is, it's funny. So you guys will never pick this up, but in my microscope, I can see the flickering of that electrolytic fluid, and especially right around this edge right over here, you can see it built up. That's actually, I say that's good, it's great. It's terrible news, but it's great. It's great news for us because now we have, now I'm going to check the other one, and so I'm going to do the same thing. I don't know if you guys probably are not going to be able to see this, but I'm going to twist him exactly the same way and take him off. These two capacitors right here, by the way, one of them is C63. I don't remember what the other one. The C63 and C64 are notorious for venting. Which one? Yes, both of them. They're both pretty notorious for venting. Okay, that one came off too. And if you look, first off, let's slide the base back over here. Do this with tweezers instead of like I've got a half a brain. So if you look at the inside of this, right? You look at the inside of it, you don't see that same fluid. You see the marking where it was heated up when it set down, but you don't see the same fluid. And when I move this out of the way and I put him down, okay, so you can, this one may have leaked too. Both of them may have, because this has got a lot of fluid underneath it. And that may be old, but this was wet. And this still is wet. And this one is dry. So this one may have vented a long time ago, and this one may have vented recently. Don't worry about that, okay? Let me turn him off. So we could, there's a couple of ways we could go about dealing with this particular situation, okay? Here's what we're going to do. We're going to hit this with some isopropyl. Okay. Now we could go the vinegar route. But we're going to hit it with the isopropyl instead, because our board rot hasn't really set in all that much yet. These have vented. But they vented, but they haven't destroyed our board yet. And I say yet, and I mean yet. They have not destroyed our board yet, which is perfect for us. What I am going to do is I'm going to fire up the soldering iron real quick, like, because I have to go to bed soon. I decided to do this kind of last minute, late at night, mainly because I haven't been feeling real good. So I'm just scrubbing, I'm just throwing a lot of IPA at it, just to get as much of this moved off of the board as I can get. Once my soldering iron's up to temp, I'm going to throw a lot of flux at it. I'm going to remove these old pads, and that's all I'm really trying to do, by the way, here, is to just remove these old pads. I'm not trying to retin anything yet. As a matter of fact, you're going to see that in a minute, because what I'm going to do is I'm putting some solder down to remove the pads from the aluminum electrolytic capacitors. What I'm going to do, though, here in a second, once I'm sure I got it off, is I'm going to hit it with some of my solder braid real quick like, and clean all of that up. And again, that's on purpose, that's by design. I don't want solder sitting on the board yet. Sorry, I'm looking for my solder braid and can't seem to locate it. Could be anywhere. I got a brand new tube of it, or a brand new roll of it, but I don't want to open that up yet. Okay, glossing over that. All right, let me throw some flux down. I'll worry about the solder braid in a minute. So the reason I'm putting flux down is flux is slightly acidic, right? You see this copper that's now starting to come through underneath my fiberglass pen. So what that tells me right off the bat is 100% we have our pad has been compromised, or our board has been, solder mask has been compromised. I'm not super upset about it yet because we got to it before it did any more damage than this. Thing is, though, we've got to get this off. We've got to neutralize this. We've got to remove it. We've got to clean it. And then once we're done and we get this thing nice and pretty and bright and shiny again and everything's right in the world, we're going to come in with some lacquer over this to kind of cover this solder mask up here. But we've got to get it all off first. It's a must. So a pocket knife is probably a little bit more abrasive than you really want to go with. Scratching at it the way that I am is way more abrasive than you really want to go with. But I kind of want to get this done, and some of it is stuck pretty good. But I believe a little bit in here I can't quite get to break free. Okay, that looks pretty good right there. That looks pretty good. Now, let me brush him down real quick. You know, make sure we got all of this off, and then I'll hold it up and let you guys take a look at it and see how we did. Maybe I'll throw it under the microscope real quick. Let's do that. Let's put it under a microscope real quick. Why not? Let you guys see what it's supposed to look like when it's all done. So, find them for you. There you go. Not even a bad view, huh? So now we have removed all the way down our board. I don't even know if you guys can even tell the difference. I'm trying to take my hat back off so my head's not in your way. So there's our pads, our original pads. So you can see some of the solder mask remains. Looks like I got a little bit right here I didn't quite get off. So we'll take and... Now I'm not super worried about that just yet. Because when I hit this with my... But for the most part, I think we got it all. Very faintly, you can see the silver line. So, we still got to take our, once I find it, it's got to be around here somewhere. I'll probably just end up opening the brand new roll, because I don't know where I put it. I really don't. I have no idea. I had it. Oh, wait. Hey, found it. Just happened to look up and see it. How about that? My flush cutters are at the end of life, and I can't let them go. So I'm going to go ahead and remove all of this solder that I put down, and we're going to clean these pads with our So we're gonna clean these pads with our fiberglass pen as well, now that we've removed all the solder from them. And the reason that we're going to do that is just in case there was any residual at all, flux or residue left over. We don't want to risk that being in our solder joint. I'm going to take my solder wick again, even though I know I just did it. There might be some residue of some solder left. and I don't want to risk that. So what we're going to do There we go. It's got that all removed for us. Retin my tip. And we're going to make us some fresh pads. So we clean this one last time. And then we're going to throw some lacquer at it. And I say lacquer, but I'll tell you a secret about what it really is. I'm not a big fan, and no offense to the guys that use it, of using solder mask. I'm not a big fan of that. And let me explain why. No offense to the guys that use it, but to me, I want you to know, hey, I worked on this board. I want you to see the work I did. I want you to know it's been worked on. I want you to know I did a good job. I want you to be able to look at it and see from now on that, yes, this was absolutely done. The guy did a good job. He cleaned it up. He fixed it. It's beautiful. And it will now work forever, right? So now we're going to isopropyl it, clean it up. We've tinned this up some fresh, brand new pads ready to go. And we are going to use LA Cross Rapid Dry Top Coat. Quick drying formula protects nails with a perfect shine. This is what I use. I stole this from the old lady, by the way. And I say stole it. She kind of gave it to me. She knew I was taking it, but I stole it from her. So, don't tell her. She knows where it's at. Dry him up. Shake up my lacquer, my fingernail polish, my top coat, whatever we're calling it. And the reason I like to use this, another reason I like to use this is, it's a little bit easier, and I say easier, it goes on and it looks. You can get it just where you want it. It stays put. It's non-electrically conductive. Okay? It won't damage the solder mask that's already there. Right? And it protects the board. We'll probably put 2 or 3 coats on that later. Alright, I'm going to go to bed for the night. We'll come back, we'll put another coat on this. That's how you do that. We'll deal with some more of the cleanup and making this board beautiful again and putting the bottom on and all that stuff. We'll do that tomorrow. Alright guys, let's put one more coat of this nail polish top coat lacquer on. Let's put one more coat on. And then I'll feel good about it. We'll let that dry, and once it gets all dry, we'll put these 2 capacitors on. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and round up the rest of the capacitors that I'm going to need to change these guys out. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Console 5, to their TechWiki, and I'm going to pull up the capacitor list, even though I can read. But it's good practice for me. It's good practice for you guys to get into, to go to their website. And just their TechWiki on stuff as far as capacitors go is phenomenal. And if you've never been there, you absolutely should. I buy quite a bit of stuff from Console 5. I'm a huge fan of them. They've got everything, and they know it all. So at any rate, let me pull that guy up, and we'll get started on this. All right, guys. So I've got Console 5's TechWiki pulled up on my phone here, and what we want to do is we want to look at which board revision we've got. So what we want to do is look right here, 1990 Nintendo SHVC CPU-01. Okay, so it's super simple. You just click on the one you want, and it'll give you the chips and IC. You can come down to the capacitor list, which is where we want to be, and click on the same thing, and it'll tell you where every capacitor is, every electrolytic one, right? You can go to the actual schematics to pull all of the little micro, all the SMD capacitors, which will be on this side of the board. You can go to the schematic to pull those. But for this is the one we're mostly concerned about. One thing to note is C67 is 1000 UF 25 volt. Okay, there's one thing to note and to keep track of. All right. So let me fire up the desoldering gun, because that's going to be the first one that I replace. Let me go pull him out of the drawer. Be right back. Alright, so let me tell you one of the biggest problems that I always have. And one of these days I'll find a great way to deal with it, but it's probably not going to be today, is keeping track of my just absolute stacks of capacitors. What you'll find is, as you do more and more of these, and do this work, what you'll find is you will end up with stacks of capacitors. Not really a great big huge problem or deal or anything. You'll just end up with a bunch of them floating around. You'll have to sort through them. Like for instance, these are 1000 UF 16 volt. Well, that wasn't going to work. I looked around for some 1025s, which I might have somewhere. I don't know. But right off the bat, I found some. Well, I say right off the bat, no, that's 2225. That's not going to cut it. There's the 470s. At any rate, I'm not digging through all these right now. 50 volts is fine. So, remember, and I try to always bring this up and talk about this, you can always go up on your voltage, right? What you can't do is go up or down. You can't go down on your voltage, and you can't go up or down on your capacitance. Now, there's a little caveat to that. You can. If you know your circuit, if you know what is coming in and going out of this, you can go up. Maybe a 16 volt would be fine here. Maybe a 2200 would be fine here. You can if you know what you're doing, and if you know your circuit. In this particular situation, I don't know for 100% what the circuit is, what it calls for, and I'm not going to go researching to find out. We're going to stick with what we have. First thing I want to do is go ahead and replace this 7805. That it works is of no consequence to me. Okay, I am not concerned or even interested that this 7805 works. The reason I'm changing it out is mostly because I just happen to be here, right? And our big radio capacitor, our big electrolytic, is marked positive and negative, so we don't have to be concerned about that guy, about taking him off incorrectly. Remember, the technique here is to heat up the solder give it a wiggle, and then wiggle the component with your finger to make sure you got it all. And if you didn't, it's not the end of the world. Go back in and try it again. It should come right out. If it's getting stuck for any reason, don't, whatever you do, go pulling and yanking on this. Go back in for another pass. It should pull right out with no resistance at all. And I'm just taking a look at this capacitor. Again, this one hasn't leaked, but I'm just taking a look at it. I just want to double check. I'm going to go in and I'm going to go ahead and remove all of these, because let me tell you a little secret, okay? Even though these are all aluminum electrolytics, you can replace these with standard electrolytic capacitors if you want. If you just don't have the others available, you can replace them with standard. There is no difference. Okay. What I do want to do is I'm going to clean this board off, right? But when I go to clean this board, I want to make sure, I don't know if you guys can see that on here or not, but this one has started to leak some here too. That's that little bit of white. I don't know if you guys can see it, but there's a little bit of white residue right here. He is vented. And most of these will have, guys. Now, he is just vented, okay? When I say just vented, in other words, he hasn't been vented for long and hasn't damaged our board, okay? So nothing to worry about there. Before I go getting carried away, I was trying to look at this board and see, because it's generally your board almost 100% of the time is indicated as positive and negative to your capacitors, or at least the negative leg is indicated. But on these, I'm not seeing that indication. And because I'm not seeing it, I want to check. Okay, so neither one of these two were actually marked, which gives me a little bit of a pause here about exactly how to move forward. I'll tell you what, here's what I'm going to do. Because I know this is how it came off. I'm going to do this. I'm going to just take a picture of it real quick. Because Console 5's page, their capacitor list does not, if you pull up, okay, it does, so never mind. So, okay, so it does show, if you zoom in on their page, right, so it does show you by the arrow indicator. I don't know if you guys can make that out, but maybe I can zoom in. There you go. By this arrow indicator, it does show you which way negative is. Okay, perfect. So then we don't even have to fool with that. We can just keep removing. That is perfect. Some of the I know some of the Segas, they don't show that. The Segas are all marked, so that's a non-issue for you. And again, the reason I'm going to go ahead and remove all of these now is because I want to clean this board and get all this flux off of it and make it look pretty and all the other things. And it's a lot easier to clean a board, right? If there's no components on it. And when I say no components, with as few components as possible, you can really get in there and do what you need to do with them. Now again, you guys see me, I'm twisting fast, but I'm not putting a lot of pressure. Never mind the popcorn in my wrist here. So, that's how you know you're an old electrician. I've never met an electrician without popcorn in their wrist. And one last one. And once we're done with this, well, he just came off real quick and fast. That's great. It's just exactly what we wanted. I'm going to shove all of this stuff out of the way. I'm going to throw down some paper towels to catch as much of the nasty of the flux residue as I can. Now, you can just isopropyl and clean this with a toothbrush if you want. I like to use MG Chemicals No Clean Flux Remover. Either one works fine. I just find that this works a little bit better, but I will give you a little bit of a pro tip if you're just using isopropyl. If that's what you're going to use, that's fine. No harm, no foul. Won't hurt a thing, won't change, won't make any difference. It's just a little bit more work. What I will tell you is warm your board up using a hot air gun or a hair dryer or whatever you've got. Just warm it up, right? Don't put it in the microwave, but warm it up. And because that will cause the flux to become a little bit more liquid anyway, and it will help everything get good and broken down properly. Now, what I find interesting is the later revision NESs did not have this huge flux problem everywhere. Nintendo got a lot better about cleaning it. And also, this is the only version of the NES that I've ever seen with flux, leftover flux on it. Nintendo is usually pretty fastidious about keeping everything nice and clean. And when I say that, thoroughly, very thorough about everything looking just so. This particular revision of this particular console, maybe they could have done a little bit better on. At any rate, I'm not going to go after that with isopropyl. I'm going to let that sit for now, and I'm going to come to this side. And I'm going to do the same thing over here with my flux remover. Even though there's not a lot of flux showing on this side of the board, we're just going to let it sit and soak for just a second. And there's almost no flux showing on this side of the board, by the way. But we're just going to let it sit and soak for a second because we do have some. And this is a great time to go ahead and remove that, clean all of this up. For you guys that don't know this, by the way, the cartridge, the upper cartridge connector, this guy right here does just clip on and off. It is always a good idea if you're cleaning this board to go ahead and remove that, because a lot of dust will get trapped around the bottom of these pins. Looks like our lacquer wasn't all the way dry, so we're going to have to be a little bit cautious around it. Now we're going to flip this guy back over. And we're going to switch up our toothbrush from that guy to this guy. We're going to come in with some isopropyl. Heavy amount. Heavy amount. Nothing to be afraid of here. Go nuts. With as dirty as this board is and was, you know, listen, first off, isopropyl is going to evaporate. The reason I'm going after it now, even though the flux remover will dry clean, the reason I'm going to go ahead and go after it with the isopropyl, for one, is because I'm here, and for two, it will just make a little bit cleaner of a board when we're all said and done. I'm going to flip this over, and we're going to repeat the same process again. I've heard from some people, you know, watch my videos and go, man, you just go through a lot of isopropyl, a lot of chemical, don't you? Yeah, isopropyl I do use quite a bit of. I use a lot of it, but it won't hurt anything, and I would rather use it and make sure that I've got everything nice and clean and beautiful than not use it, right? And the board or the components not be good and clean. So I talk about quite a bit on my channel, by the way, for those of you guys that don't know, about how much I dislike working on Super Nintendos. And I always try to caution that a little bit and say it's not that I dislike the Super Nintendo. Quite the contrary. I love the Super Nintendo. It's one of my very favorite consoles. However, here's the problem with Super Nintendos. CPU A, work RAM, PPU 1, PPU 2, and our two memory modules over here. Okay, if these guys go bad, you're done. Okay, especially any of these four. You can get replacements or do some things with some of the other chips and components on this board, but if the PPU A or B goes bad, CPU goes bad, or the work RAM goes bad, you're out of luck. You're done. You're finished. There's no replacing it. Unless you get a donor, right? Unless you get a donor console and kind of sort of start fresh. There's no replacing it. And that, you know, is aggravating to me. Because Super Nintendos, in my experience, and again, this is my experience, this may not be yours, this may not be other people's, but in my experience, Super Nintendos tend to fail more than other consoles. And they fail more than other consoles, in my opinion, because of these chips. Now, what I'm going to do before I go sticking this guy down all the way is I'm going to get, because I know that this has to sit over the top, and I'm just checking clearance because this capacitor is taller, and so I just want to check clearance on it before I go soldering it in. Just one of those we're going to double check types of things, right? As the only electrolytic capacitor on this board that is not the aluminized kind, the only standard electrolytic capacitor on this board. You'd think I keep, for Game Gears, I keep a whole drawer full of capacitors just for Game Gears because of the 68, the 33 UFs, because I use them so much. And so you'd think, kind of in contrast, that I'd keep a whole lot of the Super Nintendo ones around too, but I don't really, and it's by choice, I don't really work on Super Nintendos a whole lot. Just because just removing all the tabs. Just removing all the tabs left over from the old electrolytics. Alright, now I'm going to go ahead and re-tin all of these pads, and then we're going to install our 78 SO5. So what's the big difference between the SO5 and the 05? Right, what's the big difference? Not much, except for the 78 SO5 can provide up to 2 amps, which is way more than this board will ever need. However, the reason that I use the 78 SO5s is not because the board will need more, but it comes down to a very common sense. People say, well, it makes no difference whatsoever. It does. Temperature, right? Temperature. So the SO5s tend to run a little bit cooler than the 7805s do, and that's because, especially on the Super Nintendos and the later gen consoles, and that's because they're not being pushed as hard, right? They're not being pushed. Can't even read that. 78 SO5. Cool. And so because they're not being pushed as hard, they're not being worked as hard, they don't get as hot. Now, before I go installing this guy, here's a little pro tip for you. Okay? Take your screw that holds this guy in place. Okay? If you want to know how to get this guy in here perfect, because he can be a little bit tricky sometimes, right? Go ahead and drop him in place as close as you can get him. This little metal tab, by the way, on these guys, this little metal tab over here can be a bit of a pain on the side of the heat sink housing. Be a little bit of a pain. But at any rate, sorry, the 78 SO5s, because they have such a higher ampacity capability, they run a little bit cooler than the 7805s because they're not working as hard, right? How much of a difference? Negligible. Negligible. You know, we're talking 5 or 10 degrees Celsius, maybe less. You know, maybe less. I don't know. But it is less. And less matters. Because remember, Electronics do not like to be warm. Now, silicone chips will tolerate a substantial amount of heat, but they don't like to be warm. They would prefer to be nice and cool. And so since they want to be nice and cool, the cooler we can keep them, the better off we are. Okay. So once we've got him done and in place, it looks like, well, so I do also put, and even though Nintendo doesn't from the factory, a lot of people don't, I also put a little bit of thermal compound. No particular reason other than if you can't afford, if you like legitimately, if you can't afford 10 cents worth of thermal compound, then you don't need to do this. Yeah, you really don't. If you can't afford 10 cents worth of thermal compound, and I use MX4, but again, the tiny little drop that I need there, if you can't afford it, you don't need to do this. Alright, let's start here. See what, before I start right there, let me clean the flux off of this and here. And I'll tell you what else I'm going to do while I'm here. Go ahead and fire up my micro pencil. So let's start with C60, 59, and 60. 59 and 60 are 100 UF, 6 volts. But guess what I don't have? It's actually 57, 58, 59, and 60 are all 100 UF, 6 volts. And I don't have those, but I do have 100 UF, 25 volts. So that'll be fine. That's what we're going to use. I gotta go to my picture because I don't remember which way they went. Okay. So they all face, negative all faces this way. I'm going to use my micro pencil for these guys in the middle row specifically. I'm having a hard time seeing around the back side of this guy, and I want to ensure a proper solder joint. And if you're not careful with this guy, you'll end up running solder up to plastic, which is a big problem. Now, these next two can be just a little bit tricky to get in here. And just make sure I'm going the right direction with them. All four face that way. So we go here. I'm just giving these guys, sorry for my silence, I'm just giving these guys the wiggle test too. just to make sure that I got them nailed down. Just to make sure. You don't want to do this and then have to do this again. These guys right here can be a little bit tough to get to. Okay. Next two are C, 65 and 66. And they are 10 UF16s. What I have is 10 UF50s. That's what we're going to use. They're a little bit bigger. They'll be just fine. And ground on these guys face the exact same way.
Hey.
Face the exact same way. These guys can be, these ones, because they're bigger, can be quite a bit of a challenge sometimes to get in there, because they're bigger and you're in a much tighter space and all the rest of that. Just stick with it, you'll get it. They're not impossible, they're just tight. Not impossible, just tight. Sorry about that, just checking across my pad to make sure I got them. Go ahead and stick this one in up here. This is 62. 62 is a 2.2. Now that's a problem. That is a problem because I don't have a 2.2 UF. It's 50 bolter too. Let me think on that for a minute. Let's do 63 and 64, which are 33s. I do have a 2.2. Look at there. I do. Awesome. Perfect. Excellent. I'm going to do 61 as well. 61 is a 10. That's no problem. You know what? Let me go ahead and get him out while I'm here. So I got a 63 and 64 are both these 33s. Uh-oh. Sorry about that. I was starting to have a little bit of a leg cramp there, and that was a terrible time to be having a leg cramp. But so 62 negative faces. Put this the same direction. Yep, negative faces in on the board. That's just fine. Go. There we go. And then these two down here, 63 and 64, face negative faces away from the board, out. Alright, last one being 61. Remove the pads that are accidentally left on it, re-tin. And 61, negative, should face, this around here the way he goes. Negative should face down. Can handle that. So that's got all of those capacitors switched out with shiny brand new ones. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and clean this guy up real quick, which when he's removed like this, he's pretty easy to clean. There's a little inner plastic piece that can come off. Go ahead and take him off if you can get him out. Just makes getting inside with a brush a little bit easier. So we're going to stick this guy back down here. That's where he sits. There is no, by the way, there is no forward and backwards on this. It just kind of goes down, and it will really kind of only go down in one place. Voila. That's all done. Cool. Okay, so we've got all of our capacitors replaced on this board. The next thing that I want to take a look at is our SHVC sound board. Now, Nintendo later integrated this into the main board of the Super NES, so this was no longer needed. There is a bit of a debate about people who prefer this sound over the later boards. While there is no doubt that I'm on you. This thing off can be a bit of a pain sometimes. Well, there's a bit of a debate. The one chip is without a doubt the best, or at least the most easily modifiable. Easiest to hack, at least, mod and whatnot. But I am kind of partial to the sound output of the SVHC sound card version Super Nintendos, the first generation, the first iteration, I guess you could call it. I'm kind of partial to that sound more than I am the rest of them. Nothing necessarily wrong with them. Sound on the other ones, but I personally am just partial sound on this. Getting this cover off. There's some capacitors in here. The reason I'm doing this is there's some capacitors in here that generally need replacing. 10 volt 47 UFs, but these both look like they're in great shape and there's nothing wrong with this board. These are the chips they added later, the DSP, the digital sound processors. Both of these capacitors look to be okay. So we may leave these. Let me take a bit of a closer look. Yep. Those definitely look to be okay, so there's no need to excuse me. If they both look okay, there's really no need to go changing them out, doing anything extra or special with them. Those don't see a lot of abuse as far as overall on the power end of things. They don't tend to, or at least it's not in my experience, they don't tend to vent and leak. Which is good. But I like to check them just to be on the safe side. We can set him aside. Let's take a look at. So we've got some dust. We've got some dust built up here, which is perfectly normal. On the controller ports, but I don't see any damage. There is an LED in here, which comes through right here in a resistor, but that's really it. There aren't any capacitors in this board. There's not a whole lot to change out here. Other than just knocking the dust off of it, there's not a lot here to work on, to do. I did go ahead and pull out one of my other cases from one of my other Super Nintendos, one of the ones that was unrepairable. And so we're going to clean up all the metals and reassemble this guy and give him a test run. But I am probably going to reuse the bottom, or the top shell off of the original, other than it's just dirty. It's in remarkably good condition. This one's a little beat up, so we're definitely going to have to clean this up. So I'll tell you what, let me go clean this guy up, or find one that I've already cleaned, and I'll be right back. So before we can go too far in assembling this, we got to put the heat shield back on, which I cleaned and placed somewhere. Just 1 second and I'll find that. Too many projects going on at once. That's the problem I've got here. Too many projects going on at the same time. Here it is. So, before we go screwing this down, we want to put just a little dab, of our MX4 on here. Just a little drop of thermal compound will go a very long way. You don't even need much, just a little drop, about a pea-sized bit. And then we'll put him there, and we will screw him down. Now it's important that you screw down the 7805 before you screw down any of the other screws to this shell. And the reason is, once you screw down all the other screws, you'll have no movement left in your 7805 to get him around where you want him. If you screw down the 7805 first, then you can kind of, if a hole's not lining up perfectly or something, you can wiggle it a little bit. Nintendo put these little tabs, a little tab on the side of the 7805 chip, and if it's not perfect, it won't align properly, which will lead to all sorts of aggravation for you. So it's best to, like I say, go ahead and screw that 7805 down first, and then you can kind of address everything else. I used my WoW stick the other day for a video on the Game Boy. So my original electric screwdriver that I loved so very much broke, and I bought the WoW stick to replace it. And I haven't really used it at all since I bought it. I unpacked it. I did an unboxing video, but I never did even post it. At any rate, so I get this lined up just right. At any rate, I went ahead and did the or used it the other day to do a Game Boy video. Ended up pretty happy with the WOW stick. I wasn't sure about it to begin with. I wasn't sure I was going to like it. I wasn't sure it was going to work out the way I wanted it to and all that stuff. But I ended up being pretty happy with it overall. I ended up being pretty happy with the thing overall. It's better than I anticipated. It doesn't have as much torque, the WOW stick, as the other one. And it's not as fast either. The motor doesn't spin as fast either. But it seems, at least on the surface, matter of fact, let's go ahead and just use sound. Let's go ahead and just use him for now. But it seems to be, and I'll tell you one other thing that I'm not a big fan of. The magnets kind of suck on it. The magnetic bed holder, I say kind of sucks. It actually really is not very strong at all. Definitely not as strong as I would like it to be. That's going to go over there in a minute. I'm just double checking where all my screws go. Is this all the way through? Yep. Okay. Just double checking where all my screws go. These have to come back up. And we have to put in our faceplate and our power switch. Power switch we can go ahead and drop in. Back him up. We could. May not be able to. There it is. We just wanted to fight a little bit. We didn't want to fight a lot, just a little bit. Just wanted to fight enough to make everything aggravating. Tell you one thing about the WOW stick, if it had the same magnet that this had in it, that holder magnet, man, it would be, it would really, really, really change be a game changer. As far as working on consoles go, it really would be, because it's, well, this has got to go in first. Yep. And it should slot right down. We're going to hit him with a little bit of isopropyl. So one of the reasons that, speaking of isopropyl, you see so many console builders and modifiers and all that use isopropyl alcohol so much, and the recommended is non-conductive. So as an electrician, the term non-conductive angers me because everything is conductive given the proper voltage. Given the proper voltage, absolutely everything is conductive. But isopropyl alcohol is non-conductive. And it's very quick drying. Very quick. and won't harm electronics, all of which are very important things. See what I mean about it just absolutely has zero torque, or at least it cams out at the first little bit of effort required. It just doesn't have very much torque in it at all, which I mean I guess is fine. But if it had just a little bit more torque, it'd be perfect. Just a little bit more would really be perfect. But it doesn't. So I have to kind of make the drop right in there. Looks so much better. Alright, next piece. Let me find it. Just give me a second. I cleaned my bench up. I didn't clean my bench up. I just took everything and shoved it aside to work on a couple of other things. Now I can't find anything. And you'd think at some point that I'd learn my lesson about that, but I won't. I won't learn my lesson about it. I'm just going to keep doing the same thing over and over and over again. I am pretty firmly convinced that everybody that builds this stuff has a workbench that's just covered in 400 projects that they haven't gotten around to finishing yet. I'm convinced. Maybe I'm just slack, but I'm convinced there's no way that everybody can have this spotless. I'm not hiding. Don't you judge me. I'm not hiding behind it. I know my workbench is a mess. I think perhaps, with the exception of maybe the coder, I think everybody else is full of it. I really do. I think that I gotta put the spring in it. I was just double checking to see exactly where the spring went. It was this way. Oops, and there. Maybe this way. There we go. The coder doesn't seem to care either. And I certainly don't. I don't care. Okay. Alright, so that's got all of that installed. Let's set him aside, just slightly aside for now. The inside of this is in really good shape. The outside definitely needs a good solid scrub, so let me go to high speed and scrub this guy down. we have, for the most part, cleaned this guy up. Top to bottom, he looks significantly better. Almost looks like a console we could put on the shelf and use. Be great, because that's the general idea. Is to have a console that you can actually play. So we're going to get this cover screwed back down, and then we're going to find some cords and some plugs and some things and plug this guy up and give him a test run and see how it holds up, see how it runs. Overall, though, for what I gave for the console, if it does fire up and run with minimal amount of work, I think we got a good deal. I think we got a real good deal, especially being as we had a Wii thrown in and a bunch of controllers and stuff, which are all still kind of sitting outside. But being as we had all that stuff thrown in, kind of a package deal, I think this was a good deal. Alright, let me round some cables up. Alright, so I rounded up all the cables and whatnot. I'll get this all plugged up. Stick a game in it. Let's turn on our little monitor. Let's see what we end up with. Okay, we got power. That's good. Let me switch over. TV1. So it's on. Yeah, so we got a good screen. Give old F-Zero a shot, see how that comes out. So, F-Zero seems to work, which means our 3DFX boost is working. Or Super FX, sorry, Super FX. Triggers seem to be working perfectly. Cool. Alright guys, well there you go. There is how you recap Super Nintendo with the SHBC sound, and make her 100% operational, up and running, change the case out and all that good stuff. Guys, if you like this video, hit that like button, be sure to subscribe, hit the bell icon for more notifications like this. We got some more great videos coming up soon. I'd love to see you around for them. Drop me a comment down below. Let me know what console you'd like to see me work on next. If it's a Super Nintendo, another one. If it's an NES, if it's a 3DO, whatever you guys want to see, we'll do. And if I don't have it sitting on the shelf or in the to repair and build box, I'll buy it. We'll get it. We'll throw it on the bench, even if it's something I haven't worked on before. And we'll make it happen. We'll do some cool stuff with it. At any rate, guys, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys on the next one.